audience. First of all, I want to thank the organizers for having me. I was very honored with the invitation. And thanks for all the amazing talks until now. Like I love the whole Hitchhiker's Guide presentation. I laughed my ass off in the beginning, and we had a guitar on stage. That's amazing. That's really cool. And thank you all for putting yourselves in harm's way to see me fly some drones on stage today. And last but not least, I want to thank the US Custom agents for letting me through. After shouting at me for 10 minutes, like, why are you bringing drones into DC? And at the end, like, what do you have against Trump? I was trying to explain them. This is for a presentation, but so eventually they let me through. So I'm very happy. So first, a little bit about me. I'm from Amsterdam. This is the first time me visiting Washington. I think it's a very cool city. I'm still trying to figure out how not to look silly on those scooters, because that's just not possible when you're going through the city like that. But I really love the city. During the day, I'm a CTO of a startup, scale-up in Amsterdam. I have a website with some information if you're interested. But of course, the most important thing, at night, I'm a drone enthusiast. I've been for quite a while. It's a bit dark, actually, but this was me last summer when I was hiking through Spain, and of course I had to bring my drone and make all these Lord of the Rings shots. There, you could see a dwarf if you, it's because of the light, otherwise you would see Gandalf there somewhere. The goal of this talk, I'm going to show you guys how to control drones using JavaScript. So that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a few steps. The first one is going to choose the right drone, of course. The second one will be controlling a single drone. And in the third and final step, I'll show you how to control multiple drones at once. If you have questions, come see me after the talk during the breaks. I'll be very happy to talk to you. We were joking around a bit in the beginning, and I of course have to say this, like, you're here at your own risk. This is actually a drone during, I think, like the Winter Olympics coming down. Just like, that was really bad. But in all seriousness, rest assured, these drones are not very powerful. Like, this is one. This is one of the drones I'll be flying. It's very light. And therefore, it's not very powerful, and therefore, it won't really harm you, and we have the cage. So, I mean, the goal is that they will stay here, but for the first row or any other row, if it does come near you, it won't, but if it does, just, like feeding a horse, use a flat hand. Like, and just push it away. You'll be fine. Like, even if it's flying at full speed, you can just push it away. We have a cage. Just don't point fingers, because then the cage doesn't work. So yesterday, well, no, not yesterday. This was still in Amsterdam. But in the name of science, I got a hot dog. And this is the drone flying at full speed. And then you'll see that it just stops. Like, so you'll be fine. Yes. Step one. Choosing the right drone. So let me tell you a little bit about the history of drones. So this is me 10 years ago. I set up a small time lapse. And back then, 10 years ago, you had to build your own drones. You would have to get separate parts, electronics, and solder the whole drone. And it would take like days to weeks just to build one drone. But then again, like 10 years ago, this was amazing. The first time I saw a drone fly, I was just mesmerized. But yeah, it took like weeks and a lot of trial and error to get one of those drones to fly. And then the next step was kind of what they call ready-to-fly drones, which is basically you go to the shop, you pay, I think this is the DJI Phantom, and it's about $2,000. You pay $2,000, and the same afternoon, you'll be flying your drone. So that was a very big step. And of course, the 2,000 euros, I mean, it's worth it. It's amazing what these drones do, but it doesn't really allow you to experiment yet. Well, it doesn't allow me to experiment. I don't have like 2,000 euros just to throw around. So that's why the third step is very relevant. And those are the cheap drones. And that's when it really became interesting. Like, these drones are quite cheap. they're quite light, they're quite not dangerous. So that really opens some doors. So let's talk a little bit about the requirements. First of all, I said this before, cheap. I don't have 2,000 euros to throw away. So I mean, like, if they're quite cheap, then suddenly this becomes a possibility. They should be able to fly indoors. It's just more practical, like, and it's more fun because like you'll be spending a lot of time, and you know, in Amsterdam it rains a lot, so they should be flying indoors. They shouldn't be too dangerous. We kind of touched this topic, and they should have, of course, an interface for communication, which totally makes sense if you want to talk to your drones. So the drone of choice. Again, let's pick it up. This one is the RiseTech Tello. Probably we'll put the presentation online if you want to look it up later. That's this one. It's relatively cheap. It's about $100. So, well, yeah, that's a possibility. Like that, it becomes possible to buy a few of them or to crash one of them, you know, every once in a while. They're light. They're 95 grams. So again, this doesn't make them very dangerous. They have a UDP interface. You have different drones with different types of interfaces, like Bluetooth. This one uses Wi-Fi, and then the UDP. I always say UDP protocol. The P is already for protocol, but I don't know how else to naturally say it. But they use UDP to send messages, and we'll get back to that later. It doesn't have GPS for positioning, which doesn't really make sense, of course, inside, but it's also a price thing. But it does have a downward-facing camera. So I'm not sure if you guys see, well, probably you won't, but it has two small cameras here. And they are downwards facing, and they use those cameras to kind of orient themselves. So let's talk a little bit about this camera. What it does is it does visual recognition of patterns on the ground. So when it flies, it does the visual recognition, and it uses that information to determine where it is and whether it's moving or not. So it's going to use that information to keep the drone in place, because no drone is perfectly calibrated. So if you just let it fly naturally, it will start drifting off, just because it's just not calibrated perfectly. And then it uses the visual recognition to understand, like, hey, I'm drifting off, so I'm correcting a little bit. I'm flying a bit to the right. If you do this like 10 times a second, basically it's just standing still. Also, if you want to start really controlling the drones, if my drone is here and I want to move it over there, I need to somehow tell him how far it should move. So say like this is like 1 meter. By the way, I'm using the metric system. So this is going to be like 1 meter for me. If you want to move it 1 meter, somehow it needs to determine like how far did I move already, and do I need to stop moving because I already reached my point where I want to go. Hence the bed covers. So I'm not a big Minion fan, but I picked these because these are excellent for the visual recognition. So first of all, if I would just use the normal carpet here, it would not have enough distinction for the cameras, because these are quite low fidelity cameras for them to really do the pattern recognition. So I needed some kind of high contrast pattern. But then again, another important thing, hence kind of the children bed covers, is you want the pattern to not be too small in its repeating kind of aspect, because then, like, if this piece of pattern is exactly the same as that, then you'll get a lot of jumping around and the drone will get confused, like, am I here, here, or here? So that would be kind of, that's why my daughter is a bit cold tonight. Actually quite long. I'm here for like 4 days, so, but she'll be okay. Amsterdam is not that cold. Well, it is actually. I should call her. Step 2, controlling the drone. So now it's going to get interesting. So let's talk a little bit about controlling the drone. So it's all about sending commands and receiving telemetry. So we want to send him commands to, tell him what to do, and then receive telemetry to know what the drone is actually doing. So we talked about this a little bit before. We're using UDP. So UDP, we're not going to go into too much detail, but basically it's kind of a best effort protocol. So you don't get any feedback. You just send the messages, and you don't know whether, first of all, whether the messages arrived successfully at the drone that you're talking to, and it doesn't tell you immediately like whether the execution of the command was successful. So that's kind of like the whole best effort aspect of the protocol. So if you say like take off, this is going to take some time. This is hardware. Like, you know, it may take a few seconds. So in the beginning, we'll just use very simple timeouts to wait for the previous command to finish and then to go to the next command. So let's try and fly the first one. Can I get the lights up? Yes. Okay, so now, yeah, the screen will be, yeah. This is going to be really good for the flying, but not for the showing of the code. So I'll probably do that afterwards. So I'm going to send the first command. Yeah, it's completely out. Let me just see if I'm sending. So I'm just going to describe what I'm doing right now, and I'll show you guys afterwards. So right now I'm just sending commands, just text strings to the drone. The first one will be a command, which basically puts the drone into this SDK mode in which it will be receiving the other commands. So if you don't do that, it won't really listen to your commands. So is this work? Okay, so I just send the command take off. So it just took off, and then I do realize that now I should really quickly say land. So I'm sending land. And is it going down? Yes. So, okay, so we're basically controlling our first drone. I just send them a command take off, and then immediately afterwards I send the command land. So let's take it a little bit a bit further. So first we do a takeoff. Let's wait for 5 seconds. That should be enough for taking off. Then we're going to move the drone. So I'm going to send the command left 100, which means that it's going to move to the left for 100 centimeters. I do another wait of 5 seconds, then right, and then we'll land. So this is the takeoff. I put a wait of 5 seconds in there. So now we're waiting, and it should go to the left. Please? Yes. So it's going to the left. So it's taking its sweet time again, 5 seconds. Okay, so it missed the first, it went to the right. Yeah, it's mirrored for me. So I send left. So probably what happened is that my timeout of the takeoff command was too short. So it was still taking off, and it's just not going to react to your commands. It's not going to pull them or anything. So that it's kind of the difficulty at first of setting this up, is that you don't have the feedback, which with hardware is very difficult. Hardware is so much more unpredictable than software, which makes it very fun but also very frustrating, especially the second thing. So these are kind of the problems that you have to work around. So let's talk a little bit about the telemetry. Can we get the lights down again? So yes, so there we are. Let me just show you my screen. Are we there? Recording stopped. That's going to be the switching of the... Sorry about that. Let's go to the code. So receiving telemetry. Okay, so this is quite interesting. So I just ran a bit of code. I'm going to show you the code. This is just a socket. We have a few imports. We have a constant of the port. We're setting up the socket. And at this, sorry, I'm hovering. So we're just reacting to a message event, and we're just logging the message that we're receiving back from the drone using the same, so the drone is using the same UDP protocol to send back messages. I think it's like with the 10 hertz, or maybe it's even 20 hertz. So it's roughly 10 or 20 times a second. We're going to get some information. So this is what we're getting back. So it's just a string. That's it. But it's a string with a lot of information in there. So let me just zoom in a little bit. So basically, this is live telemetry from the, where is my drone? Ah, there it is, yes. I'm really struggling with the lights. Okay, so yeah, this is a bit crazy, yeah. So we're getting a lot of telemetry. So it's getting a height from the cameras, it's getting a pitch, a yaw, all these kind of values. So maybe like, can we, it's very hard to see, but there, maybe in the middle you see pitch. So you see me rolling and you see the pitch going up and down, and then the roll just to the right of pitch. It's kind of the same, and then the yaw. So basically we're getting the information from the drone, still in this very rudimentary form in the stream, but I think most programmers here will not have a very big problem in just getting the information out of the string. But this is kind of what you're working with this drone. Sorry. So as we had the lights up just before, let me just show you the sending, because I was trying to show that on the screen during the flying of the drones, but of course it was a bit difficult to see. So this is just the code for sending commands to the drone. It's as simple as that. So we do have a small helper function up here, which sends the commands, but the helper function by itself does very little than just, it has a client with a socket with a UDP protocol, or the UDP. And it just sends the command, and it's as simple as that. So first we send the command, we wait for 1 second, we do the takeoff, we wait for 5 seconds. So this 5 seconds was probably too short. It should have been maybe like 10, but you kind of get the idea. Then this is how we're controlling the drone right now, just sending some strings. Yes, so let me get back to, okay. So let's talk about controlling multiple drones at once. Yes, now it gets even more interesting. So what do we need for coordinated flight? We need to know where the different drones are relative to each other. Basically, that's kind of the most important thing, because they're going to be flying around each other, so they need to know where the other drones are. And basically, if you want to know where the other drones are, each drone is going to need to know where he is in a certain space. So let's just kind of consider the bed covers, our space right now. The drones need to know where they are in this space. So let me introduce, as they are called, mission pads. So it's a bit hard to see, but here on the ground we have several of these mission pads. These are sold by the same company as the drone, so it's kind of proprietary. It's a proprietary system. I'll get back to that later. And they are recognized by the downwards facing camera. So the camera recognizes this pattern. So the one here is just for us. It just uses these circles, and every mission pad is unique. Oh wow, we're getting the light, so that's very helpful. So every mission pad is unique. We have 8 of them. And what the drone does is internally it calculates its relative position to this pad. So right now, if the drone would be flying here, it would recognize I'm above pad number 8, and I'm at a certain Y, I'm at a certain Z, and I'm at a certain what, X? I missed X? Yes. Okay. So compared to the mission pad, so basically this drone would know where it is compared to this mission pad on the ground. So that's why we have the grid. So we have the 8. It's because of the back covers. Maybe it's you can't see it that well, but look over there. It's the same grid as we have on the ground. I know, of course, the position of these pads, and they were put there pretty carefully, like on a predetermined grid. And by combining the relative position of your drone to one of these pads and the position of the pad itself, basically it gives us the position in the space that we're looking for. So let's get back to the telemetry. This is one of the lines you saw before, and there you see MID2 X73 Y18. So it's telling me it's above mission pad 2, so that's that one over there, with an X of 73 and a Y of 18. So now we have the ID of the mission pad, and we have a relative X and Y. So if we want to get the position, I think you see where I'm going. It's not that difficult. we get the x and the y of the pad we're looking at. We get the relative x and the relative y compared to this pad. So to get the x and the y of the drone, you just add the pad x plus the relative x, and that gives you the x of the drone, and the same goes for the y of the drone. Generating a move command, as we saw before, the drone reacts to strings that we send to the drone. So I think you already saw, you saw the left 100, which meant go to the left 400 centimeters. If you want to go to a certain space, compared to relative to the current position of the drone, you just send the x and the y in a go command, as you see in the bottom. So a go 10 100 would mean go relatively on the x dimension, go 10 centimeters, and in the y dimension, go 100. So in order to generate a move command, we just take the target x and the y where we want to be in our relative space. We get the position, we calculate the delta, which is pretty basic, of course, and we just, thanks for the ES6 talk, we have the template strings. It's very easy to return a go 10 100 command. So let's dance. Well, dance, let's call it coordinated flight. So give me a little moment, because I need to set up and I need to position my drone in a certain place. Thank you. Yes, I need the light. This is kind of important where I place them, because otherwise for the initial move they will crash into each other, and that won't be too nice. Let me get the white one. They all have their own colors. And the yellow one, yes. So
This is where we take out our eye guards.
yes. This is like front row. Good luck. Let me just see. There's like literally so many moving parts to getting those to fly. And the advice is always no live demos, right? But that's not fun. So we have our backend running. It's very light. So this is kind of my Node code which is going to do all the coordination. I have this. Where did the screen? It's a bit flaky, but okay. So the screen is not too important. I built my own kind of front end in React today to kind of control. So I think we lost. Okay. Yeah. So let's just ignore the screen. I don't know. Maybe the cable is a bit flaky. So let me just. So I just it's a bit shame. So I initialized all the drones. So right now they kind of told me that they are ready for this. And there's a lot of code going on trying to kind of control the drones. But there's just this one button that I need to click. Yes. And I should not forget to take off. Wait. There's one not flying. That's a shame. Let me just reset it. They'll wait. They have quite some battery. Yes, there you are. There it, yes, finally took off. So it's with his friends now. So now we have 4 drones flying. Look at how happy they are. They're just kind of like hanging out, which is so nice. And now let's press, okay, so I pressed the dance button. And now this is just all them. I'm doing nothing. And like dance, this probably tells you something about my quality as a dancer. This is what I call a dance. But this is kind of coordinated flight. So they're all just kind of doing stuff together. There they go. It's cute, right? I think so too. So they're doing another circle. And there they go again. It's like my daughter can't decide whether she's kind of thinks they're cute or very scary. So she's always very conflicted about me and my drones. And I think this is about the last move. Yeah, I think so. No? Ah, they're feeling good today. I think this was the last move. I don't know the dance that well.
Why aren't you dancing with them?
Well, because I'm scared of the drones, in all honesty. And they're landing. So this is coordinated flight, basically. Thank you. Can I get the lights down again? Perfect. So let's talk a little bit about, because I think I'm almost through my time, so we have to kind of go a bit quicker. So basically the dancing is just, it starts with where are the drones right now? Where do they need to go? And then if we're talking about JavaScript, we just have a promise.all with 3 promise returning functions, which take coordinates. And that's basically just one dance step. So you would go step 1, and so I talked a bit about the delay and the waiting for the command. So I did a lot of kind of extra code to do the knowing whether the drone was finished with its command yet. So we don't have enough time to really go into that. So let's go to a conclusion and let's talk about lessons learned really quickly. Controlling drones is really hard. Again, as I said a few times already, controlling hardware is really hard because there's just a lot of literally a lot of moving parts. So say, for instance, we have the kind of the Darth Vader door opening. If that would happen and we would get this draft, suddenly all the drones would move just because of this draft, and you would have to account for that. That's just a very different way of thinking than when we're in this controlled software environment. Yeah, that's kind of the external focus that I was talking about. So some advice: get rid of your cats, because your cats, my cat actually attacked the drone, which I lost one drone. That wasn't a good day. But the drones, in retrospect, the drones will attack my plants. So get rid of your plants, because if you don't control them and suddenly like you're just not looking at your drone and suddenly you hear this and you see all these green parts flying over you, then you know that there was another fight between the drones and the plants, and like the drones do win. Be prepared to crash a lot. This is quite a good example of my trials trying to get these drones to fly. I'm so happy they're not so expensive. So as I said before, you need to create your own feedback system for the UDP way of communicating. And one of the big downsides of this system, which I don't really like, is that the thing with the mission paths and the visual recognition, it's closed source, it's proprietary. We can't really touch it. And which, I mean, it's working fine, but you have the 8 paths. If I would want to add 8 new paths, that's not really possible because it's a closed system. So that's a bit of a downer. But for the rest, I mean, it's amazing fun to have these kids flying around your house all day. That's it for me. Thank you.